You've probably heard the name Neil Patel. He's an absolute giant in the world of digital marketing. But how exactly did he build his empire? Well, we're about to dive into his unconventional playbook, pulling out the core lessons he shared in a really candid interview.
But to really get where he's coming from, you've got to understand his story first. I mean, think about this. He became a millionaire as a teenager, and then, poof, lost it all just a few years later. It was that trial by fire, the insane highs and the crushing lows, that really shaped his whole philosophy. It's not just about getting rich, it's about building something that can actually last.
So, what's the very first rule in his playbook? It's not about having a brilliant, once-in-a-lifetime idea. It's not about a revolutionary product. No, it's something way simpler, and honestly, way more fundamental. Choosing the right battlefield to begin with. It all starts with the market.
And this is where Neil's thinking just flips the script on conventional wisdom. He argues that it takes pretty much the same amount of effort to compete in a tiny market as it does in a massive one. So why would you fight tooth and nail for a big slice of a tiny little pie? He goes after these huge, multi-billion-dollar industries where grabbing even a fraction of a percent can build an entire empire.
He actually learned this punch bowl analogy from a private equity owner, and it just perfectly captures his whole vibe. In a massive market, there's just so much success to go around. You don't have to crush your competitors to win. You just need to find your spot at the bowl and get your share.
Okay, so that brings us to the second pillar. Once you're in the right market, how do you actually grow? For Neil, the answer isn't about chasing viral fame or getting millions of followers. It's about building something much, much more valuable, a real, intentional audience.
Neil draws a really sharp line in the sand between having a massive following and having an intentional audience. See, chasing viral hits is just a gamble. It's a hit-or-miss game. Instead, he focuses on creating super specific, valuable content for a very clearly defined customer. Yeah, it might not get you millions of followers, but the ones you do get are there for a reason, which makes turning that attention into a business way more reliable.
And this quote, man, it just cuts right to the heart of it. A huge follower count is just a vanity metric if it doesn't translate into a real business. For Neil, the goal isn't just to be known, it's to build a business that actually, makes money.
So how do you turn that intentional audience into revenue? Well, Neil lays out 3 key principles. First, you have to know your ideal customer inside and out. Second, you have to get them off social media and onto a list you actually own, like email or SMS. This is so crucial. It's the difference between building on borrowed land and building on your own property. And third, you have to do things that don't scale. Meet them in person. He argues that real connections are where real business happens.
All right, on to pillar number 3, scaling. So you've got a business, it has some traction. How do you get that massive growth? For Neil, the answer is to think way bigger than just your own country. The answer is to go global.
This is such a critical mindset shift. Neil advises entrepreneurs to think globally right from day one, even if you're not planning to expand immediately. Why? Because the biggest growth opportunities, well, they're not just in one country. True scale comes from reaching the entire global market.
And he has this really specific strategy for it called the land and expand model. It's a brilliant process, really. It all starts with landing a small pilot project in one region, let's say Latin America. You go in, you over-deliver, you prove your value. That initial success then lets you expand within that region, and you use that trust to cross-sell into other territories, like Asia-Pacific or Europe. Before you know it, you're expanding into other divisions within that same global company. And that's how a $300,000 deal can strategically mushroom into a massive 8-figure partnership.
Let's move on to the 4th pillar, and this is a topic that's on literally everyone's mind right now, artificial intelligence. How do you not just survive, but actually thrive in the age of AI?
So according to Neil, the most important skill for the AI era isn't coding, it's not prompt engineering, it's a mindset. The whole AI landscape is changing so fast that the single most valuable skill you can have is the ability to just constantly experiment, test, and adapt to whatever is working right now.
His team has done a ton of testing to figure out what it takes to get noticed on AI platforms like ChatGPT, and it's not just about traditional SEO anymore. The key factors? Things like brand mentions, being talked about in the right online neighborhoods, customer reviews, and using structured data. That's basically code that helps AI understand your site. But here's the most crucial finding. These platforms still prioritize and love to cite authentic, human-created content.
So, we've covered market selection, audience growth, global scaling, and AI tactics. That's a powerful toolkit. But after all of that, what's the one single principle that kind of underpins everything else?
And that brings us to the fifth and final pillar. And this one, it's less of a business tactic and more of a philosophy for life. It's the simple idea of giving before you even think about getting.
You know, when people ask him how to find great mentors, Neil's advice is completely counterintuitive. He says, don't ask for someone's time. Instead, find a way you can help them. Use your skills to add value to their life or their business, and do it without asking for a single thing in return. Be a go-giver, not a go-getter.
This whole philosophy is just so different from the typical transactional approach, right? That I'll do this for you if you do that for me mindset. It just rarely works with really successful people. But giving selflessly with the pure intention of helping, that's what builds real relationships and allows mentors to just emerge naturally.
So at the end of the day, what is all this for? When he was asked for his #1 piece of advice for the younger generation, his answer wasn't about hustle or getting rich quick. It was this. He reminds them that they have so much time, and that the rush to become wealthy can mean you miss out on actually living. The real goal is to experience the world.
And that leaves us with this one final question. Neil Patel's playbook is packed with sharp, effective strategies for building a company. But his final, and maybe most powerful lesson, is a reminder that a successful business should be a tool to help you build a successful life, not the other way around. So, what are you truly building?